Betrayed by the people he trusted most, Derek's world crumbles overnight, until a hidden trail of lies, deception, and corporate greed leads him to a shocking truth. In a game where loyalty is a luxury and every move could be his last, will Derek reclaim his power before everything he loves is lost forever? Nora Hale had always been the quiet storm in a house of hurricanes. Her family, the Ashcrofts, were legendary in California's real estate circles, known for power, prestige, and ruthless expansion. And every month, like clockwork, they gathered under the chandeliers of their Napa Valley estate to toast their success and subtly rip each other apart. But Nora, 35 and wrapped in a thrift store cardigan, had a secret they could never imagine. As die. She took her seat near the fireplace, a place she chose for strategic obscurity. Her cousins began their usual games. Just bought a ranch in Jackson Hole, Preston drawled. We just closed on a vineyard in Tuscany, Cassandra added, her words like champagne bubbles, all glitter, no substance. Nora nodded quietly, swirling her iced tea. They mocked her duplex in Portland. They pitied her for renting. They laughed at her modest wardrobe and lack of a husband. But beneath it all, Nora smiled. What they didn't know, that cramped Portland duplex was part of West Pine Holdings, the largest ethical real estate company in the Pacific Northwest. A firm she founded, owned, and operated anonymously. Her family's prized jewel, Ashcroft Plaza, had quietly changed hands 6 months ago. It now belonged to West Pine Holdings. It belonged to her. She sipped her tea. Aunt Evelyn, grand matriarch, and all-around tyrant, turned her attention toward her. Nora, dear, you're so quiet tonight. How's that little apartment of yours? Cozy, Nora replied. Still renting, I assume? Preston asked, feigning concern. She didn't bother correcting. Them. They'd see soon enough. Then came the bombshell. Her father, silent for most of the night, raised his glass. We're concerned about the new owners of Ashcroft Plaza. They've ordered an audit. No one's sure who they are, but they aren't impressed with the Hale name. For the first time, panic flashed behind the designer's smile. Nora works in real estate, Cassandra chirped. Maybe she knows someone who can help. Suddenly, she wasn't an embarrassment anymore. I mostly work with residential, Nora lied. Nothing that big. As she left, Aunt Evelyn called. Next time, dress more like a Hale. Appearances matter. Don't worry, Nora smiled. Tomorrow I'll look exactly how a Hale should. In her Portland penthouse, yes, hers, she watched the lights twinkle across the skyline. Her assistant Illa entered. The board's waiting. Audit packets are ready. Are you sure you want to do this? Legacy isn't a license to abuse power, Nora replied. They need to remember that. She turned toward the window. The reflection staring back wore a navy Altuzara suit. Soft power, hard truth. Tomorrow, they would learn the truth about the girl they dismissed. Nora's heels clicked confidently down the polished marble hallway of Ashcroft Plaza's headquarters in San Francisco. The boardroom doors loomed ahead like fortress, gates, imposing and unyielding. Behind them sat decades of family legacy, power, and secrets that had long shaped not just the company, but her entire life. She paused a moment, gathering her breath. Today would change everything. The doors swung open, and the murmur of familiar voices rose like a low tide. Her father, Gregory Ashcroft, sat at the head of the massive mahogany table, flanked by his sister Evelyn, her longtime confidant, Cassandra, and Preston, the cold-eyed CFO who had always been her father's shadow. Ah, Nora, Gregory said, surprise and a hint of disdain in his voice. I wasn't expecting you here in person. Nora lifted her chin. I'm here to present the audit findings. West Pine Holdings now owns Ashcroft Plaza. That means I represent the majority shareholders' interests. Her words hit the eye, room like a cold splash of water. Preston's lips curled in a sneer. You think you can just walk in here and dictate terms? This is our family business. It was, Nora corrected, until it became evident that the family was running it into the ground. She laid the leather-bound audit folder on the table and opened it, spreading pages filled with numbers and notes. The financials show unexplained transfers, inflated asset values, and what appear to be offshore accounts we've never disclosed to shareholders, she said. These aren't just mistakes. They indicate deliberate mismanagement and potential fraud. Aunt Evelyn's eyes narrowed. This report is slander. We have a long history of honest stewardship. History doesn't mean immunity, Nora said evenly. I'm here to correct course. The tension thickened. Gregory's face darkened. Who do you think you are? Before Nora could answer, the boardroom door opened again. A tall, impeccably dressed man stepped in, dark hair, a clean-cut jawline, and eyes that flickered with both authority and something unreadable. Nathan Gray, Nora said, rising to introduce him. Chief Legal Counsel for West Pine Holdings. He's been advising me on this. Nathan's gaze locked with Nora's briefly, a spark of recognition and an unspoken connection that the others didn't notice. Pleasure to meet you all, Nathan said smoothly. I'm here to ensure the company's integrity is restored and that this audit leads to transparency. Preston's jaw clenched. Sounds like an outside takeover to me. Nathan smiled thinly. Sometimes outside oversight is exactly what's needed when trust is broken. Gregory slammed his fist on the table. Enough! Nora, this family doesn't need lectures from you or your lawyers. We built this company. Nora's voice sharpened. You built it on lies, Dad, and I'm here to make sure those lies don't destroy it. The room erupted into a chorus of accusations and denials. Evelyn defended the old guard. Cassandra whispered into Gregory's ear. Preston threw up barriers of financial jargon. Through it all, Nora's resolve only hardened. Days later, Nora sat in the glass-walled conference room overlooking the city skyline. The audit team had uncovered more than just financial irregularities. They'd traced suspicious contracts tied to shell companies, embezzlement schemes involving key executives, and even collusion with competitors to manipulate stock prices. Each discovery tightened the noose around Ashcroft Plaza's leadership. Nathan stood beside her, projecting calm authority as they prepared the legal strategy. Nora, if we expose this, the board will fight tooth and nail, Nathan said, voice low. They're not just family. They're entrenched power. Expect sabotage, she nodded. I know, but I can't back down now. Nathan's eyes softened for a fraction of a second. You're stronger than you think. Nora's heart fluttered, a mix of professional respect and something more complicated. Back at the headquarters, Cassandra met secretly with Preston in a dimly lit lounge. We need to stop Nora before she destroys everything, Cassandra whispered, glancing over her shoulder. She's tearing the family apart. Preston's face was grim. I've already moved some accounts offshore. If she digs too deep, she won't find the money. But the audit, we'll call it sabotage. She's an outsider now. They're whispered. Plotting underscored the fracture beneath the polished surface. One evening, after a long day of strategy sessions, Nathan invited Nora for coffee at a quiet cafe near the waterfront. You're carrying a lot, he said, stirring. His espresso, more than just the audit, Nora laughed softly. Family is complicated, Nathan nodded. I come from a family like that too. Learned early that loyalty and power can be poison. They shared a brief, charged glance. Just be careful, Nora, Nathan said. Some battles don't end cleanly. She smiled, a flicker of warmth breaking through the armor. Neither do some alliances. The morning sun spilled through the tall windows of Ashcroft Plaza's executive suite, but the light did nothing to warm the cold atmosphere inside. Nora sat at her father's old leather chair, the weight of responsibility heavier than ever on her shoulders. She flipped open her tablet and scanned the latest report from the forensic accountants. The evidence was undeniable. transactions funneled through hidden accounts, forged signatures, and layers of deception that had gone on for years. A knock at the door pulled her from the documents. "Nathan," she said, relief and tension mingling in her voice. He entered, holding a fresh batch of emails intercepted from Preston's private server. "We've got him," Nathan said, voice steady but his eyes dark with what lay ahead. "Preston's been funneling millions into personal accounts for years, and Cassandra's involvement runs deeper than we thought. She's been manipulating board votes to protect him." Nora's heart pounded. "We have enough to call an emergency board meeting, but they'll never go quietly." Nathan stepped closer, lowering his voice. "We need a plan that seals the deal and cuts off their escape routes." Hours later, the grand boardroom was filled with a heavy silence. The tension was electric as Nora took her place at the head of the table. Gregory's face was pale, but his eyes burned with defiance. Nora began, "We've uncovered evidence of embezzlement, fraud, and conspiracy against the company. Preston and Cassandra have been acting against Ashcroft Plaza's interest for years." Gregory slammed his fist. "This is an attack on my family, on everything we've built." "Nobody is above the law," Nora said firmly. "I'm calling for an immediate vote to remove Preston and Cassandra from their positions and to start a full legal investigation." Evelyn shot Nora a venomous look. "You think you can just uproot the family? You don't belong here." But Nathan stood and addressed the room with quiet authority. "This isn't about family. It's about accountability and the survival of the company." The vote began. Board members whispered, some hesitant, others torn. When the count was announced, it was clear Nora's motion passed. Preston and Cassandra were stripped of all roles. As Preston stormed out, his face twisted with rage, Cassandra lingered briefly, shooting Nora a look that promised retribution. Gregory slumped in his chair, the reality of defeat settling like a stone. But Nora knew this was just the beginning. Later that evening, Nora and Nathan walked along the waterfront, the city lights shimmering on the water. "You did well today," Nathan said, voice low. "So did you," Nora replied, eyes searching. His Nathan hesitated, then admitted, "I wasn't just brought in for legal advice. I have a personal stake in this. My family was destroyed by a scandal much like this. I see a chance for redemption here." Nora looked at him differently, sensing a kindred spirit in their shared burdens. "Maybe this fight is bigger than just a company," she said softly. Nathan smiled. "Maybe it is." Back at Ashcroft Plaza, in a dimly lit room, a shadowy figure watched a live feed of the boardroom vote. A phone buzzed. "Phase 2 begins tonight," the figure whispered, and the screen flickered to a message. "The game is far from over. Nora." The early morning chill hadn't yet lifted when Nora arrived at the Ashcroft Plaza office. Her mind was a storm of thoughts. The board had voted Preston and Cassandra out, but the shadow of their retaliation loomed like a thundercloud. Nathan was already there, reviewing security footage and recent communications. His jaw was tight, eyes scanning for any sign of a threat. "Morning," Nora said, trying to mask her exhaustion. Nathan glanced up. "We have a problem." He pointed at the screen. A series of anonymous emails had been sent to key shareholders, leaking partial documents, insinuating corruption on Nora's part. "They want to discredit you," Nathan said grimly. "They're playing dirty." Nora swallowed the knot forming in her throat. Who could have access to those documents? Nathan's fingers danced over the keyboard, tracing digital footprints. Someone from inside. Nora remembered the night's phone call, the shadowy figure's chilling words. Phase 2 begins tonight. She shared the message with Nathan. He frowned. They're escalating. Just then, her phone buzzed again. An encrypted message. "Meet me at the old docks, midnight, alone." Nora hesitated. Was it a trap or a chance to uncover more? Nathan's voice was firm. We don't know who's behind this. You shouldn't go alone." Nora looked away, torn, but determination won over fear. "This is my fight." The docks were a maze of rusting ships and shadows, the salty air thick with unease. Nora's footsteps echoed as she approached the meeting point. From the darkness, a figure stepped forward, a familiar face. "Claire?" Nora gasped. Claire, her former closest friend turned rival, nodded. "You need to know the truth." Claire pulled out a USB drive. Preston and Cassandra didn't act alone. There's a deeper conspiracy within the company. Someone who's been pulling strings for years. Nora's heart pounded. "Who?" Claire hesitated, voice barely a whisper. "Your father." Nora staggered back, the weight of betrayal crashing over her. Her father, the man she idolized and mourned, was part of the conspiracy? "Why?" Nora demanded, tears threatening to fall. "Power," Claire said flatly. "He built the empire, yes, but he also hid its darkest secrets. Preston was his pawn." Nora clenched her fists, fury and heartbreak mingling. "I trusted him." Claire's expression softened. "I'm sorry, but now you know. And now you have to decide. Fight for the company's future, or let the past destroy everything." Nora returned, shaken but resolute. She found Nathan waiting, a storm in his eyes. "We've got to expose this," Nathan said. "If your father's involved, it'll shake the foundation of everything." Nora nodded. "We'll need evidence and allies." As they strategized, an unknown number called Nathan's phone. "Step away," a voice warned coldly. "Or you'll regret it." Nathan looked at Nora, unflinching. "They're watching us." Nora's jaw tightened. "Then let's make sure they regret it." The boardroom was silent, the weight of every secret hanging thick in the air. Derek sat at the head of the table, his calm demeanor masking the storm inside him. The evidence he had gathered, emails, financial reports, recordings, was irrefutable. The betrayal was laid bare for all to see. Claire, her face pale and eyes darting, knew the game was up. Her carefully constructed facade crumbled. "You don't understand," she whispered, desperate. "I did it to save the company. We were losing everything." Derek leaned forward, voice steady but firm. "At the cost of your integrity and the trust of everyone here? No, Claire. We rebuild this company on truth, not lies." The shareholders murmured their approval, the tide turning firmly in Derek's favor. Morgan, sitting quietly, nodded approvingly. He had played his hand carefully, and now justice was within reach. Outside the boardroom, the press gathered, their cameras flashing. Derek stepped out, ready to face the fallout. He spoke clearly, promising transparency and a new era for the company. The story of betrayal and deceit was over, but the story of recovery had just begun. At home, Derek called his family, feeling the weight lift from his shoulders. He knew the road ahead would be tough, but hope felt real for the first time in months. And somewhere, Claire faced the consequences of her choices and the ruin she had wrought. The mosaic of lies was shattered, and in the shards lay the chance for truth to grow.